In the winter of 1811, church bells started ringing in Boston. Nobody was pulling the ropes, the ground was doing it, and the earthquake causing it was over 1,000 miles away. For a few terrifying minutes, the mighty Mississippi River stopped and flowed backwards. Here's the part scientists don't like to talk about. The fault that did this isn't in California. It's hiding under the middle of America. And it's not done. Meet the new Madrid Seismic Zone. It stretches about 150 miles through Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. On the surface, cornfields, small towns, the calm brown ribbon of the Mississippi. But miles underground lies an ancient scar. Around 500 million years ago, North America almost split apart, then the rift failed. And failed rifts don't heal. They leave a zone of weak, broken rock. Think of a cracked phone screen. It still works, until you drop it just right. In 1811 and 18112, America dropped it just right. 3 monster earthquakes, each close to magnitude 8, struck in 3 months. The ground rolled in visible waves. Sand erupted in geysers. A brand new lake, Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee, was born in days. People felt it from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Now, you might be thinking, California gets big quakes all the time. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. California's crust is young, hot, and shattered by thousands of faults. All those cracks act like shock absorbers, so the shaking fades fast. But the crust under the central U.S. is old, cold, and dense. It carries seismic waves like a railroad track carries sound, for hundreds of miles. A magnitude 7 in Missouri shakes an area up to 10 times larger than the same quake in Los Angeles. That's why those bells rang in Boston. And what sits on top of that zone today? Memphis, St. Louis. Major gas pipelines heating homes across the Northeast. The bridges carrying America's freight over the Mississippi. And millions of buildings raised decades before anyone thought earthquake codes belonged in the Midwest. For years, some scientists argued the zone was shutting down. GPS sensors showed the ground barely moving. Case closed? Not so fast. The zone still produces around 200 small quakes every year. And when researchers dug into the river sediment, they found ancient sand blows. The fossilized fingerprints of monster quakes around the year 1450. And around 900. Big ones, roughly every 400 to 500 years. The last was 1812. Do the math. The U.S. Geological Survey puts the odds of a magnitude 6 or larger in the next 50 years at up to 40%. And a repeat of 1811 at up to 1 in 10. Would you bet a city on that? And this isn't ancient history. In 1895, a powerful earthquake near Charleston, Missouri, damaged buildings in 6 states. In 1968, southern Illinois shook hard enough to topple chimneys, and it was felt across 23 states. Small reminders keep coming. A magnitude 4 rattles the region every year or two. Dishes fall, windows crack, and everyone forgets by the weekend. But engineers haven't forgotten. Here's a number that should get your attention. FEMA estimates a full New Madrid rupture today could damage hundreds of thousands of buildings and knock out water, power, and gas for months across parts of 8 states. Think about that. 200 years of growth. Cities, highways, pipelines was stacked on top of this zone while it was quietly reloading. So the question isn't whether the science is settled. It's whether we're ready. So what happens if it ruptures tomorrow? FEMA has called this one of the worst natural disaster scenarios in America. Up to 3 minutes of shaking. Then the ground plays its nastiest trick, liquefaction. The wet floodplain soil briefly turns to quicksand. Roads ripple. Foundations sink. Bridges across the Mississippi close, and just like that, East and West America are cut apart for trucking and rail. That's the real meaning of cracking America in half. Not the ground splitting like a movie, it's the country's arteries, bundled at its narrowest crossing, going down at once. Okay. Deep breath. Because here's the bright side, and there genuinely is one. Unlike the people of 1811, we know this fault exists. Memphis has spent years retrofitting bridges and hospitals. 11 states run a massive annual earthquake drill. And hundreds of sensors now watch the zone, ready to fire warnings at the speed of light while seismic waves crawl behind. Even 30 seconds is enough to stop trains and clear operating rooms. The fault hasn't changed. But for the first time in 500 million years, something is watching it back. So, do you live near the New Madrid Zone? Have you ever felt an earthquake where no one expected one? Tell us in the comments, we read them all. If you learned something new, share this with a friend who thinks earthquakes only happen in California. And hey, Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and stay on the bright side of life.